Live?
We're going live.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live.
I used to only do things on tape, and now I only do things live because you know what? It's lovely.
Well, why not? Right?
You don't have to. I spend hours in editing afterwards. That's the main lovely thing about it. But
yeah, you don't need to do that anymore. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the FiveStack here on Substack as we watch all of our beautiful American, Canadian, by the way, Russian. We got like 20 subscribers in Russia, thousands in England, tens of thousands in the United States, thousands here in Canada. Hi, Kat, how are you? I chatted with Kat a little bit on DM today over a couple of stories we're going to be covering today. Hi there, Molly. Great to see you too. Priscilla J. Jenkins just stopped in. I love seeing her every time. I'm waiting for Oaths Matter. I'm waiting for my boy PJ. I'm waiting for everybody to pop in here. But we have a humdinger of a show. There is no quit behind the Trump regime. There is no quit behind the Epstein files cover-up of a cover-up of a cover-up. There is no quit when it comes to people trying to ascertain what is wrong with Donald Trump physically, mentally, and emotionally. We have a bunch of answers for you today. That is my friend Zev Shalev, narrative.org. Go and give him a follow, like Candace Owens apparently follows him. She's using your content now, and some of her just worlds are colliding, everybody. Worlds are colliding.
I got a text from a friend of mine who's like, he's in Madrid, and he's like, hey, did you see Candace Owen featured your content last night? And I was like, Candace Owen featured my content. How is that even possible that Candace Owen and my content exist in the same universe? But he sent me the link and I check out the show. Actually, she does a really good job explaining Epstein. I was impressed. I must say, I've never watched a full hour of hers, but there it was, a full hour explaining everything that was about Epstein. And she prominently featured my interview with Ari Ben-Menashe a few years ago in the right context, gave me credit, which no other, I don't even want to call her a mainstream star because she isn't, but she's a star. But, you know, and I was impressed. She framed it in the right way. She didn't go into any dark corners that were wrong. And I got to say one thing. I agreed with her on almost everything she said during the entire hour, which is the whole thing about this Epstein story. It is this connector. It is the ultimate bridge between the Democrats and Republicans on everything that can bring down Donald Trump, because we're all united about this one thing. We want to know the truth. And the truth is out there, and they are holding it back, which is why it's a cover-up. And why it's so interesting that we're all in agreement. I know you've had a similar experience.
Yeah. Just a quick note. Brandy G wants the truth so much in the comment section. She's joining us as she's sitting in her doctor's office for an appointment. People are thirsty. People are thirsty for facts, are thirsty for the truth, and really thirsty for answers. And never in my lifetime did I think that 6 months into the second term of the disastrous Trump regime's administration, did I think that I would see Candace Owens featuring a, pardon the language, libtard's work?
I'm not a libtard. I'm an independent journalist. You know,
I know. I'm joking, buddy. I'm joking.
But I'm considered, I'm anti-Trump for sure. I'm pro-democracy, and that puts me on the other side of the fence from her.
Well, dude, it puts us on the other side of the fence from everybody. Vehemently opposed to Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, who I retweeted today, who now says he hates Donald Trump, really angry. Donald Trump called him a weakling and stupid and says he wants to hang Republicans by the midterms. And I'm not kidding you. He said that today. MAGA's imploding, and they're moving closer to the middle, and there's this like fork in the road. And I put a tweet out about it, a post out about it on Substack, deanblundell.substack.com, that really kind of lays out the fork in the road for MAGA, where we're seeing, left-wing lunatics, we're seeing progressives siding with MAGA, we're seeing right-wing lunatics and incels siding with progressives, and they have a choice to make. And some have already made that choice. Charlie Kirk, Tim Pool, Dinesh D'Souza, all those losers, Alan Dershowitz, they've all made their choice. Their choice is to protect pedophiles. But there are some crazies out there that bought the MAGA song hook, line, and sinker, who indeed think they're cosplaying or think they're warriors to end child trafficking and child sex and pedophilia, who wanted the information to protect children and victims. And they're sitting literally at a fork in the road right now going, do I go that way, give up my identity, or do I go this way and say sorry? and admit they were right? Do I go that way and help protect pedophiles, help protect pedophiles and pedophile enablers, and hide the truth, or do I ride the horse that got me here? And I mean, this is a seminal moment in the Trump regime's incredibly disgusting reign of terror over the past 6 months and the previous 4 years before Biden. So, we're going to talk about that and much more today as we're seeing not just the tide turn, but Donald Trump unable to turn the tide back or change the channel for the first time in the history of me knowing anything about that piece of shit. So, today's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it.
I just wanted to add one thing to that. I mean, because we are, if you pull back a little bit, we're seeing an intelligence turf war happening. There are those people, it looks to me like Russia's out there, letting its Epstein data go out there, and it's certainly allowing its Epstein influence or its MAGA influences to be independent minded on these things, or even forcing them into these positions. That's not a comfortable thing for me when Russia is still, holding the reins of how American narratives are unfolding. But again, on this one issue, everyone is united because everybody wants the truth. Russia has the truth. Israel has the truth. Donald Trump has the truth. The Justice Department has the truth, and we all want to see it. So, the fact that this is being maybe spun and pushed into the zeitgeist by Russia doesn't make me feel that good. But the fact that it's out there is good because we absolutely need to find the truth and what Donald Trump is hiding. And whoever can expose it, I don't care who you are, I'll take it.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's what is it's funny what brings people together, isn't it? Sometimes we're strange bedfellows. We've got progressive, critical thinkers that are asking for the exact same thing Nick Fuentes is asking for.
Yeah.
We have educated, bright, smart, socially aware captains of culture and industry agreeing with Candace Owens and Alex Jones. And I never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see it. It's almost, and you know what? I back up a little bit to several months ago when Mark Carney arrived on the scene as Donald Trump started giving it to Canada, threatening annexation. Never thought I would see Maple MAGAs move to the middle. Never thought I would see the kind of unity that I've seen. And, the ends justify the means where it comes to the Trump regime at this point. So embrace it. I talked to Lev Parnas the other day. We were talking about Laura Loomer going off, basically agreeing with progressives for the last week and a half. There's still a whole shitload of crazy in there. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But my God, this is what Trump feared. And not only did he bring it on himself, it was this, sycophantic emotional reaction. And it's the idea that this reaction exists because he is so deeply entrenched in everything Epstein, the transnational criminality, the pedophile ring, the sex trafficking, the sexual assaults, everything that goes with what we're talking about. And we'll get to it today because we have major breaking news when it comes to the money trail, where it comes to Epstein. And this is a lot of information for a lot of people to take in. So bear with us, and I'll turn it over to you, Zev. You can start us off and take us down that road.
The number 5 story today, Senator Ron Wyden's investigation has exposed $1.5 billion in suspicious Epstein-related transactions that major banks only flagged after his 2019 arrest. While Trump simultaneously reverses course on releasing these Epstein files, 4 major banks, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, and Bank of New York Mellon, documented thousands of suspicious transactions covering art deals, billionaire consulting fees, and payments to women from Russia, Belarus, and Turkmenistan. As Wyden demanded transparency on his financial evidence of trafficking operations. This is an investigation he started in 2022. Now, in fairness, this data has been out there in various forms over the years, but the fact that he's highlighting the money trail right now is particularly important, of course, because Attorney General Pam Bondi has been, retracting and denying that there's anything in the Epstein files that is worthy of investigation. What Ron Wyden is out there saying today, there's plenty of data that they have in the FBI files that should be investigated just on the transactions alone, millions and millions of dollars.
Billions, 1.5, as a matter of fact. That's what's, and by the way, that only came to light, and a lot of it moved thousands of wire transfers, 4,724 wire transfers, right before Epstein died, and even after Epstein died, money was moving.
Yeah.
Why is this interesting? A lot of people are asking. And the reason why it's very interesting is because someone had to pay for all the pedophilia. These are not, when you talk about consulting, these are bribes. These are I gotcha. These are honeypots. These are trafficking costs. These where the money is where the crime is. And if you follow the money like Senator Wyden's doing, you you can see it. And I laid it out on my Substack, deanblundell.substack.com. And you just kind of repeated it. Uh, Subjects for deposits, art deals, consulting fees. Leon Black appears in there to the tune of about $440 million, by the way. Payouts to women from Russia, Belarus, Turkmenistan. Not just that, also in the United States and around the world. Those are just the most. That's where they found the most women. A lot of these funds were transferred back and forth using Russian money, by the way, just to point that out. Wire transfers up to $100 million, all processed without scrutiny until Epstein was in handcuffs and the media heat was on. Among the offenders, as you point out, J.P. Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Bank of America Mellon, and Bank of America. J.P. Morgan alone. And who's in charge of J.P. Morgan? And who's in charge of Jamie Dimon? Jamie Dimon. Who one of the biggest benefactors, one of the biggest donators, Jamie Dimon. J.P. Morgan alone filed a reported $1.1 billion, covering 4,700 sketchy transactions that went back to 2003. So, if we're following the money, and if we know that there's an outstanding file with hundreds, maybe hundreds, for sure dozens and dozens and dozens, names of wealthy benefactors, billionaires, politicians, captains of industry, that is somehow vanished, that is attached to the physical transfer of funds into Jeffrey Epstein's accounts of banks belonging to people like Jamie Dimon, who is one of Trump's biggest financial supporters. There's there.
There's a lot of there. Tonight at 7 p.m., Olga and I are doing a special on Jeffrey Epstein, where we're going to be doing the second episode of The Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein, which is a lot about how Israel was involved with Jeffrey Epstein. But we're updating it with a special brand new information that we've been assembling around his connections to Russia. And one of the things we've been finding is his connections to Russia through millions of transactions that went to $4 million in transfers to women and girls, $5 million in suspicious withdrawals. But those really pale in comparison to the network that we're able to determine existed because of these transactions. So there's a guy named Sergei Belyakov, a Russian deputy minister of economic development, who through these transactions was identified as a potential conduit for Jeffrey Epstein. He's a former FSB Academy graduate, meaning he's basically a spy. He had extensive contact with Epstein throughout the years. And two other Russians in his orbit, I won't reveal the names now because I'll leave it something for later on, were also connected to the SVR and other Russian officials. And we know that a lot of this money that was flowing through here may have in fact come from Russia. Elon Black is another really interesting person. Elon Black.
Leon Black. Leon
Black.
Yeah.
Visited with Donald Trump in 1997 in Russia. There's this incredible videotape where, they all look a little spent because it's an early morning meeting they're having with their Soviet hosts. And Leon Black looks like he's just walked out of the worst hangover in the world. He's like holding his head in his hands, and he's just like, looks like he's just had a hell of a time. Turns out they visited in a stripper club the night before. And, it would have happened in a Russian strip club with all these.
I've never been to a strip club in my whole life.
No, but a Russian strip club, when you're on a visit at a state visit from America to the Soviets, I mean, there were cameras everywhere, I am sure. And that's probably the first of the compromise they had on Mr. Black and on Trump. But it is also interesting that Leon Black landed up being a real conduit to Vladimir Putin throughout the years, and obviously funded a lot of money to Epstein. So he's a direct conduit for a lot of Russian funding, we believe, that went to Epstein, but there's so much more in the Treasury Department files that need to be released. The Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network has details of all these transactions. Who got them? Why did they got them? Where are the suspicion? Why are those not publicly available and being released? I mean, Epstein's dead now. There's no reason why we shouldn't see exactly what was being transacted there. Now, the reason they're probably holding back is because some of them could be compromised individuals who are paying back blackmail fees, but others might involve these spectacular financial crimes, which I keep talking about, which never get the headlines, but deservedly the women deserve a lot of the headlines. But the financial crimes that Epstein conducted with his fellow compadres in the Trump circus, in the Trump orbit, let's call them, are staggering. Billions and billions of dollars laundered through companies like Towers Financial, used by foreign governments to influence American politics, used by foreign governments to launder drug and other criminal arms trading, smuggling, and other kinds of things through this organization like Towers Financial, and that happened multiple times. It even caused the financial collapse of the United States and the markets in the United States a couple of times. It is phenomenal to me how much money this guy was passing through his operations, both in the United States, but also offshore, where, I have evidence now, though I haven't published the story yet, that the federal government actually bailed out an offshore holding of Jeffrey Epstein that contained about $7 billion in it as part of the bailout in 2008 before Bear Stearns was sold off. So there is a lot of much bigger valuation, much bigger money that really was all about what Jeffrey Epstein was about. Arms trading, the sophisticated Iran-Contra affair led to all these other arms trading events. And we still have a lot of money unaccounted for, by the way, from Iran-Contra that's still out there, billions and billions of dollars that funded the Maxwell empire and probably funded the Epstein empire, which we need to know about. I mean, the women and the underage girls is horrific, but they are the tip of the iceberg. This is a massive transnational criminal organization, which involves not only Epstein, involves Trump, involves many other people. Interestingly enough, you mentioned JP Morgan. I'll mention Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank is the other bank that both Trump and Epstein were banking at towards the end of Epstein's life. Deutsche Bank is notorious for being a Russian money laundering bank that was actually, if I'm not mistaken, Putin actually placed the former German chancellor as the head of that bank when he corruptly, got him into the Kremlin orbit. So, this is massive. This is not small fry corruption that went over the years.
Yeah.
This is a monstrous, huge criminal enterprise.
This is one of those strings, and there are dozens of these strings that belong to the thread of the sweater, which is pure corruption, foreign interference, that if you pull on one or two hard enough, and we're getting to the point now where mainstream media is starting to pull on these. Like some Trump allies are starting to pull on these. His base are starting to pull on these. And to your point, and we've ad nauseum talked about this, the shiny, really disgusting penny here for a lot of people is the Epstein files. Well, the Epstein files were a means to an end for all the other stuff. And that other stuff, to your point, is about arms dealing, money laundering, favor trading, favor buying, bribing, and turning the United States into a haven for Russia, for China, and for Netanyahu and his cabal. So when we talk about what's at stake here, and I know everybody, if you're like-minded with me, and everybody else, and I put this out the other day and it went viral. I don't care who's in the fucking Epstein files. I want to know all the names. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Libertarian. I don't care if you're Stephen Hawking. I don't care if you're Bill Gates. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I don't care if you're Leon Black. I don't care if you're Jean-Luc Bernal. I don't care who you are, because I want to know for the victims. The other side of that is there's an opportunity here for America to root out a lot of rot and start fresh again. And for everybody on the progressive side and everybody on the conservative or MAGA side to get the exact same thing that they want. A look under the hood of government corruption, a look under the hood of the deep state in the swamp, real receipts of how it works and how it operates, and accountability for victims and everybody that chose to steal America and the American dream from all of you. So while we're sitting here having a conversation about it, it's really encouraging to me to see, and I know that there are despots and crackpots and crazy people and incels and racists that want the same thing I want. If everybody started pushing in that direction for the first time since the inception of Trump the president, you have more power than him. You might get what you want. You might actually find out who the deep state is. You might actually figure out who's behind a transnational child trafficking ring. Then you're also going to be able to figure out why. And that's the big catch. That's the thing that everybody should want to know is if you love America as much as I love Canada, if you love America, and I don't doubt that MAGAs love America, I don't doubt progressives love America, I don't doubt it. But if you all say you love America and you love freedom and you want accountability, the as many times as you've said it, and if you've wasted your lives for the past 5, 6, 8, 10 years like maggots have, trying to find accountability when you've been misdirected to where that accountability is because that accountability sits with the person, the leader of your cult that has misdirected you that way. Now's your chance. Now's your chance to put your money where your mouth is.
I could kiss you right now because you are so right on the money. You really are. This is exactly why this is the opportunity for America to finally erase 40, 50 years of being used by foreign entities, by foreign governments as some sort of toy. The Saudis and the Israelis and the Russians have been using
The Chinese
have been using America's openness and America's somewhat naivety in the world, and has been using them as a toy to send American troops to their deaths around the world in ridiculous wars that make no sense, that were just traps for the American population and American armies, that squandered billions of dollars of money in progress. Our open system has allowed people to take over our news operations and replace them with propaganda enterprises like Fox News and these, there's so many now of these foreign-run news organizations that perpetrates, the worst kind of propaganda against the American people. So the American people are denied the truth in a lot of ways. These same entities have come in and they've suppressed our voters. They've taken over our governments. They've taken over our party, one of the greatest parties in American history. The Republican Party has been taken over by corrupt individuals who
they've cooked the brains of your relatives and your neighbors.
Yeah.
They have destroyed the dollar. They have destroyed your 401ks. They are trafficking women. They are covering it up. They are trafficking and abuse. They're destroying your economy. You want a fresh start, kids? America, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to Uncle Dean up here in Canada. Okay? Listen to me.
Uncle Dean.
You want what MAGA wants, what I want, what the Democrats want, what libertarians want, what Tucker Carlson wants, what Chuck Schumer wants. We all want the same thing, and that's to root out corruption. That is to stop the abuse of the freedom that America represents. Because what they've done is they've taken democracy and got underneath the hood and fucked up an entire country's brain and pointed you at each other. Now everybody's going this way, right? Everybody's going that way. So America, this is your golden opportunity for everybody to get on side like Canada did when we realized, oh, there's an authentic individual in the room and a populist dickhead. Run for the exits for the authentic individual, everybody, and let's elect Mark Carney. We saved our country because we united behind one common enemy. We were united in front of a common enemy. We united for each other because we all wanted the same thing. Now, if America which I'm seeing for the first time in years, wants the same thing, game over. Yeah.
I so applaud Candace Owens for using my content last night, and I'm so delighted that she did it. Because normally I would be like, Candace Owens, she's a wingnut, I would have said that loud, and I was so impressed by her meticulous journalism yesterday, and how she carefully explained every little detail. She didn't mention one thing, and the Israelis put out a former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett put out a tweet earlier on saying, there's no ways Epstein worked for Mossad. I was in charge of Mossad. Da da da. This is just a lies. And blah, blah, blah. Of course, we know that, Mr. Bennett. We know that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell did not work for Mossad. They worked for Israeli military intelligence, Amman. And if you're going to be playing semantic games with the world and the truth in order to accuse the world of subjecting your country with a bunch of lies, you are incoherently and wrong about this, because we know the truth. The truth is he worked for Amman. And Amman is a very powerful military intelligence inside the Israeli Defense Force that has been conducting these operations against America for decades now. And to simply say that you're being accused of these incoherent lies is complete nonsense when you know that Epstein worked for Amman and not Mossad. And it's one of those things that they're sort of using to break apart this argument around Epstein. And I just want to push back on that. Candace Owens should be pushing back on it too, because they're accusing Candace Owens of Tucker Carlson of saying that he worked for Mossad, that they worked for Mossad. They never worked for Mossad. But this is the kind of argument, semantic argument, that they're using to discredit this big story, which is that Israel funded this illegal transnational operation and blackmailing scheme against American politicians for decades, that they corrupted American democracy for decades. And they instead of taking responsibility and owning the story and saying, we should never have done that. We apologize to the American people for doing that to the American people. We were scared for our survival. We had reasons for doing it. Instead of saying that, they're going out there and saying, oh, you're lying about us. We're not lying about them. The evidence is out there. It's pretty clear what Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell did and for whom they worked. I covered it 6 years ago. It's been buried for 6 years because of intelligence operations. This is now coming to light, and thankfully it's coming to light. But these games that Israel's playing is not helping them one bit, because the truth is there for everyone to see.
Do you think it'll come out? Like, do you think this will? Because listen, I would have, 3 weeks ago, I would have said, yeah, we'll never find out. Right? We'll never find out his associations, never find out who worked for, who benefited from his work, who benefited from the blackmail, who benefited from the underage honeypotting. It's a nice way to say it. I get the feeling that we might find out, and not just about the Epstein files, but I get the feeling, and this is, Rogan said it the other day, and give him credit, because he's literally, turning around, looking at everything that we're talking about, going, what the fuck? Are you serious? Like tens of thousands of videos and pictures of underage girls, and you're just going to bury it. And if you can't bury it, you're just going to bomb Iran. And he's right. You're going to bomb Iran, or you're going to accuse Adam Schiff of mortgage fraud, or you're going to sanction Canada with tariffs, or you're going to sign a bill saying life in prison for fentanyl addicts. Like that happened yesterday. And you're gonna and he can't. I mean, there is not
doing whatever they need to do, because they don't care. They don't care about democracy. They, in fact, find democracy despicable because it shows up how dictatorial and inefficient their dictatorships are. The truth is, America is an incredible democracy with an incredible system that has pushed America into being the leading country in the world in 250 years, with so much innovation and freedom, and why so many people have always wanted to come live there. But they don't care about democracy, these guys. They care about their own national interests. What they want to do is pollute democracy, and they want to be able to take as much money outside of democracy into their own pockets. And this is why they've been, I've called it the greatest heist in history. What happened in the last 45 years has been a systematic thievery of American democracy and America's economy and America's wealth and America's ideas. And it's resulted in America almost self-destructing, as we're witnessing it right now. So this is the only opportunity, really, that I see left on the horizon, where Americans can stand up and say, when we demand the truth on what happened to us, we are the victims of a multi-decade attack by our adversaries and our allies alike, who formed an alliance, which I've always called the enemies of democracy. And they've come after us repeatedly and tried to destroy us. And now they've installed this leader who is a fraud, and we can all see is a fraud. And we are the victims of this giant fraud because they've stolen our right to elect our own government. They've stolen our votes. They've stolen our futures. They've stolen our generation, the next generation's futures and their economy. And so we are the victims of the biggest heist in history by a transnational criminal organization. And they will do anything for that not to come out. And Jeffrey Epstein is the key for why it came out. When I first started doing the story 6 years ago, I knew it was going to be, I could feel it as I was reporting it, that the hammer was going to come down on me. And it came down really, really hard. I went from being quite popular on Twitter and whatever to basically getting no traction whatsoever, and being accused of being a Nazi, being accused of being any number of things. I just won't even repeat them here, but my reputation being damaged directly by people infiltrating every major news network in America, every major influencer online. I mean, they put me through the ringer for reporting this. They did a catch and kill operation at CNN on the story when I brought it to them. They bought it and then they killed it on day one because they didn't want the story out there no matter what. And so, years later, I'm just the kind of guy that sticks with what I do, right? So I just buried my head down and I'm just going to go for this. I'm going to keep reporting the truth. That's what I said I was going to do, and I set out on this mission. And hopefully someone somewhere finds the truth and brings it out. If it doesn't happen in my lifetime, it'll happen in another lifetime. Who knows? But for me,
but at least your work will exist as as a pointer to exactly. And listen, I got to tell you, it's funny because for the last few years, you and I have only started this podcast for the last several months. We've connected about a year ago and started to kind of do like-minded content, and let's start a podcast. We'll count down the 5 biggest stories that matter to democracy lovers on both sides of the border. And I got to tell you, when I met you, I was, and I used to watch your podcast all the time, but it always felt like it was this conspiracy indulgence of mine, where I was like, if that's true, that's fucked,
yeah,
right? And I couldn't bring myself to co-sign it, believe it, or retweet it. I sit here today, and let me just back up a little bit too. I sit here today corrected, much like I was corrected by some of my Jewish friends over separating Netanyahu from Israel, right? Separating the man, the fascist, the dictator, the authoritarian, from the people who hate him, who love their country and love everything about being Israeli. You have to. It's like the same, everybody that's here, Kat, everybody that's here. Hundreds of people are watching this right now. Most of them are American. They're not Trump's Americans. They're American. They hate Trump. And that's really important for a lot of people to recognize when you get into this conversation, because someone will, a government, an agency, a PR company, influencers, will take this video, will take guys like Zev, who's doing God's work, trying to connect dots for people so that you can be comforted with knowledge, right? And they will label him anti-Semitic. Zev was born in Israel. He's Jewish.
My grandmother died. Was a Holocaust survivor, and my entire family's family died. When they were accusing me of being a Nazi, it hit me in a place that I've never couldn't imagine. Like, it just seems so ludicrous to me. I mean, I remember looking at holding my grandmother's hand as a kid, and like seeing the numbers on her wrist, from those concentration camps, and to be accused of being something like that, was just horrific. It was really painful.
Well, it speaks to the inhumanity of anybody trying to cover up the crimes or prevent other people like you from telling the truth, connecting dots that have nothing to do with ideology or religion. They've got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. They've got everything to do with facts. everything to do with material facts of what you know, what we see. And, I go back to something that Lev says, another Jewish gentleman, Lev Parnas, who I love to death.
Mm.
I go back to what he says all the time. Don't get distracted. That's the goal. It's to distract you from the actions of authoritarians and dictators from around the world that are feeding into the United States, destroying democracy in North America, so that their crimes can go unpunished. That's what Donald Trump's doing. That's why he fucking exists. That's why he's the president. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu is still off again, on again, the prime minister of Israel. It's because these are criminals conducting criminal activities that make their entire country look terrible, make their entire everybody misrepresent. And that was the fear that I had prior to Mark Carney becoming the prime minister, is that the fear that the perception of a strongman or a populist would usurp authenticity, that ego and fraud would usurp a qualified candidate to lead this country, because that's what happened in America. That's what's going on in Israel. Like, I think that we can separate all of those conversations into that conversation and say, hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Look at the receipts, look at the facts, look at the truth, and make a value judgment based on that. Not someone calling you anti-Semitic, not someone saying that you're a groomer because you don't support Donald Trump. We're finding out in real time that those lies were lies. You were being gaslit. Donald Trump is protecting a pedophile sex trafficking ring.
He is a
Donald Trump was involved in a pedophile sex trafficking ring. He weaponized that, pointed it at Democrats and anybody who didn't like him, and said, go after them. And he wasn't the only one. There are other countries that have done the same thing, other leaders, Bibi Netanyahu being one of them, that utilized some of the most horrific accusations that dumb down the idea that pedophilia is a terrible thing. For what? So they could stay out of jail.
They could keep themselves out of jail for exactly the same crimes. And this is what gets to me, is the criminality of it all is so blatant, and the immorality of it all is so blatant. And yet these guys stand up there and try preach to Americans about what is right. But we know what right is. We know in our guts what right is. And the charade that they've been playing in America for the last 50 years, it's worn thin. We can see right through it, and their time is up. And I just wish Americans find the strength in their core to keep up this fight. Keep every news organization, if they can. I know it'll get tougher and tougher over time, but everyone on social media, everyone on these independent platforms like Substack, just keep retransmitting these questions. Do your own research. Dig further. Dig deeper.
Smash those hearts. Share these conversations. Yeah. There's a little button there.
So
share
important.
them. Yeah.
It's so important that the noise level keeps up. And I think a lot of the people on Substack are the reason this noise level stayed up in the last few days. This would have been killed by Trump in the last few days if he could have, but he couldn't. And the amount of attention that needs to come to the story, it's because this story is not about pedophilia, and it's not about the human trafficking ring. It's about a systematic attack on American democracy for 50 years, since Iran-Contra. Since Iran-Contra was so corrupt, and that billions of dollars which were diverted from America into whose bank account? Robert Maxwell's bank account. That was obviously later, I think, moved into Jeffrey Epstein's bank account, offshore bank account. Whether it was done through Towers Financial or not, I'm yet to prove, but we're getting there. This is the story of that $1 billion that has grown so out of control that people have now, in order to cover up a cover-up of a cover-up of another cover-up, have landed up here with almost destroying the greatest experiment in world history, which is the American experiment of allowing freedom and open enterprise and capitalism to flourish, and to allow people to be free individuals who can speak their mind and make their own government. that rules themselves. These people have come after that for that, what started off as $1 billion in Iran-Contra. And it's time for us to take America back. America deserves to belong to the people who created it and the people who will continue to own it for the future. And it's time to turn these foreign thugs away. They have no place in America, and they have no place in the American economy. And I believe that to the core of my being. So maybe we should do the number 4 story.
Well said.
Because
I think we're at number 3 now, or maybe number 2. Do you want to do, because if there's something I love, it's being right.
Yeah, right. So this is the story we're going to do. The White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt addressed speculation Thursday over bruising on President Trump's right hand and leg swelling, revealing Trump has what they're calling a chronic venous insufficiency after medical tests.
You said venous, right?
Venous.
Okay. Yeah.
Venous. Oh, I see what you mean. The condition affects blood circulation. That venous, and is described as benign and common for people over 70 with the hand bruising attributed to frequent handshaking and aspirin use. I mean, whatever. Normal blood work and an echocardiogram results ruled out more serious conditions like deep vein thrombosis. So you're right, Dean Blundell. You've been right for the last few weeks. You've been pointing it out to everybody. The president is not well, and he's showing cognitive decline and various other declines because he's not well.
Yeah, he's sick. He's like, listen, this venous issue doesn't kill you, but everything associated with it will. Deep thrombosis, embolisms, and I even think they're lying, because I have weighed in several times about, the absolute cognitive and physical decline that we see with Donald Trump, whether he's waxing about how his uncle taught the Unabomber, or he is, talking about flagpoles, or he's making something up about winning another one of his own golf tournaments. He's never lost one of his own golf tournaments, by the way. It's just a quick aside. Very Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il-ish. I have heard several reports and had conversations with people about the recent pictures that we've seen of Donald Trump with, like, disgusting edema swelling in his legs and ankles. I call him President Cankles now, as a matter of fact. Some people might like that. And not just the bruising on his hands, but the paper-thin skin, right? The incontinence, the Foley catheter, the diaper. All of these things suggested to every medical professional that I've spoken to, despite what Caroline Leavitt said today about having it being a venous issue, that we're looking at congestive heart failure if we're looking at anything.
Yeah.
We're looking at a man who is in such terrible health. All of his morbidities are coming to haunt him at the same time. You know what kills everybody? Inflammation. That swelling is inflammation. His face is inflamed. His eyes are swollen. His eyes are bloodshot. He's putting makeup on his hands to cover up bruises. So when Caroline Leavitt stepped up to the stump today and admitted, which, in itself is something else, because you remember Donald Trump's medical when he came around the first time, he made his doctor, he wrote the letter and made his doctor sign it, say basically Trump and Ronnie Jackson. Remember the White House physician, Ronnie Jackson, who was handing out Ambien and fucking heroin, like Quaaludes, like it was candy, like they were Tic Tacs. Said that he was going to live till he was about 200 because he's in such amazing health.
The most amazing.
He is so physically and mentally unwell.
Yeah.
Because he is so physically unwell, according to every White House insider, that they are panicking right now, trying to figure out a way they can hide whatever it is he's got going on. And they have apparently lied about this venous issue that he has. And what we're dealing with is the president of the United States in the beginnings of congestive heart failure. That seems to be the most plausible excuse for how sickly he looks, reason why he's wearing so much more makeup, and not just wearing it on his face, The reason why he's wearing baggier clothes is to hide catheters and diapers and swelling. He is very, very unwell at the age of 79 years old. So, what does that mean? I don't know, but I'm not sad about it. Like, I'm on team thrombosis, team embolism at this point, but God forbid the dude dies and you don't get the answers that you want, because, that's the race here for a lot of people. As unfit as he has been now confirmed to be in the late stages, beginning to mid stages, actually, of a morbidity or several morbidities that'll come and get every single person they come and get, specifically at the age of 79. So,
he's an old guy, and yet he's showing these symptoms which are very, very similar to the ones you'd expect from congestive heart failure. I mean, they can put out whatever rationale they want to put out there, but I doubt that this White House is suddenly practicing the truth. They've not been practicing the truth on anything else in the past.
She's like, Caroline Levitt was like, in the spirit of transparency, because that's how the president is. He's got a venous issue. And I'm like, you fucking idiots.
They would not reveal that the president had a headache, unless they really had to. And in this case, they had to do something, because it's obvious to everybody that these symptoms are here. People are aware of these types of diseases. And PJ, one of our own followers here, who works as an emergency registered nurse for many years, says this is exactly what it looks like. I can see it. I know it a mile away. Of course, this is what it is. The fact that they're now lying to the American people is no surprise. The fact that they're admitting that something is wrong with the president means that there's a lot wrong with the president. And Dean, you've been absolutely right all along in calling this out. And we have to have this conversation now. I mean, we have to have this conversation about whether we really are okay with what might happen if the president passes away. What happens? Are we okay with President J.D. Vance? Is this really going to happen? I mean, is this something that
I think you're hoping for a double thrombosis dip here with J.D. Vance. That's what I think you're hoping.
I'm hoping that America wakes up. I'm hoping that America realizes that Donald Trump is not long in this game, and he will maybe not even make it to the second term, maybe not finish out his first term. And we may have J.D. Vance in power. And I feel for any human being who's losing their life. I mean, it's a tragedy, even if he's the most moral person on the entire planet. Yeah. I mean, he should never been here in the first place. And anyhow, besides all the more, it's sad for everyone involved in that. But on the other hand, this man is leaving us in a position now, probably because he's lied to us about his health all along, where we are facing a Peter Thiel puppet as the president of the United States of America. And that is not okay. I mean, none of this is okay, of course, but that particular scenario makes it even less okay. So if you need another reason to be yelling and screaming for the truth about Epstein, this is one of them. By the way, Peter Thiel was an investor in Epstein's in Epstein's companies. So, Peter Thiel and Epstein also connected. That ties Vance into that whole network as well.
Yep.
But it's appalling that the White House is lying. It's appalling that they're again, playing footsie with the truth and not being honest with the American people. It's not unexpected, but we have to start having the conversation of what's next. And can we allow this process to continue? I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest 2024 wasn't free and fair. I don't know how we reset that election. I don't know how we go back and investigate all the weird activity that happened around those elections. But we have a real problem on our hands, because we can't wait till 28 to elect another president. This guy may not.
No, and you might not have to, because about half of those diagnosed don't make it with congestive heart failure. Don't make it 4 to 5 years. So there you go. There maybe some.
I mean, there is I know there's the 25th Amendment that can be done, but certainly not against the vice president. And I don't know what dirt we need to find on Mr. Vance, but he needs to step aside as quickly as possible. And, we need a reset on these elections somehow. I don't know how we do it, but it's worrying as fuck, if you will. And it was
Ooh.
I swore.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you, actually. I'm really proud of you. It was a great one.
Two of the quick stories to come to kids in the White House today. The White House is refusing to to bother releasing a full federal budget. They're saying it's just not in their interests to put out a federal budget. Thank you very much. White House never happened before, by the way. And this other story, which is quite amazing, President Trump has escalated his attacks on Senator Adam Schiff, accusing Schiff of mortgage fraud and announcing the Justice Department has received a criminal referral. Trump claims Fannie Mae found Schiff had sustained pattern of possible mortgage fraud involving misrepresenting which home he used as a primary residence to secure cheaper mortgage rates. While they're stealing the federal budget from you, while they're stealing the U.S. Treasury from under your nose, you know that
while
Adam
they're
Schiff,
hiding a
he's cheating.
pedophile ring, while they're enriching themselves to the tune of billions, while they're starting a fucking police state, while they're beating the shit out of migrants and sending Americans and legal residents to concentration camps,
Yeah.
Donald Trump has suggested that we persecute Adam Schiff for possible mortgage fraud, saying it's the biggest.
He lied about which was his primary home. Oh, wow. Wow. that makes him, absolutely not allowed to be senator. Actually,
Oh my God.
It's completely, actually, it qualifies him mainly if he is any criminal at all. It'll qualify for the Republican Party where everyone is a criminal. So, but this guy's obviously not a criminal. Adam Schiff is.
This isn't fucking real life. I mean, let me just end the podcast with something or the Substack Live.
Let's do it.
With something that is very much akin to Adam Schiff committed mortgage fraud from not living in his primary residence. Everybody, it's terrible. Distraction, and the weakest. Like, he's got nothing. Yesterday, he put this out at night. I'm going to read this to you from his Truth Social feed. Everybody, you'll like this. Promises made, promises kept, everyone. Just remember that, okay? Remember the heat around the world. Promises made, promises kept. Police state. The gutting of Medicaid, all of it. The dollar, your economy, your 401ks. Donald Trump's on the scene. Last night at 4:19 p.m., he puts out this tweet. He puts out this Truth Social post, Donald Trump. I have been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke in the United States. They've agreed to do so. I'd like to thank all of those in authority over at Coca-Cola. This would be a very good move by them. You'll see. It's just better. Wow.
It's just better.
Thank God. I mean, thank God.
Well done, President Trump, for speaking to. Was he actually speaking to Coca-Cola or just a Coca-Cola can? Was he like,
well, no. Coca-Cola responded saying, yes, we've heard you. We'll take that under advisement. And they're not changing a fucking thing, by the way.
Yeah. Coke is a real thing.
We live in the dumbest time. Part of me is so happy we do. Part of me is so sad we do. But at least we can laugh about a man whose collapse is imminent. It's coming. History, you look at this through the lens of authoritarians and dotards and frauds and, egomaniacal fucking performance artists that turn into dictators like Hitler, like Mussolini, like Donald Trump. It's coming for him too. It might not happen tomorrow, but I can tell you the decline is here. It's very real. And my American friends, my brothers and sisters in the United States of America, you're about to be set free, and I believe that. To what extent, I don't know. But you're going to make the decision as to who leads you next. And Donald Trump is going to get it. It is coming. And don't question it for a second. Because for the first time in 10 years, I believe it. For the first time in 10 years, we don't see cracks. We see fissures. We see tectonic plates moving. And you see a man who is so beleaguered, so sick, so unwell, that it is either going to kill him, and I mean that it will, or it is going to get him removed from office, and it is going to turn into, if America takes their responsibility seriously, the rebirth of what should be the greatest country on earth, and I believe that to be true. So hang in there, everybody.
So very well said. That is the FiveStack today. Dean Blundell from deanblundell.substack.com, where there is still a 35% discount on his annual plans.
Dude.
Go sign up today, because a lot of these stories, including the fact that Dean was ahead of everybody in alerting everybody to the very, very serious health issues that the president was experiencing and he was witnessing. He brought it to everyone's attention. Turns out he was right again. That's why everyone should subscribe to deanblundell.substack.com. It's where you get the news before it's even in the news.
And let me correct you. 50% off now through the 21st, so Monday. So from now until Monday, 50% off annual subscriptions. Had to do it. Yeah. It doesn't matter who. Come with us. Let's go and enjoy the Schadenfreude, and let's stay in touch, stay affirmed, and stay informed together. Let's do that.
I'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight with an Olga Laubman special. We're going to do The Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein, Part 2. We'll revisit the original series, show you some excerpts of that and how we proved that Israel was Jeffrey Epstein's espionage home. But we're also going to add a whole new layer of investigation which ties in Russia. It's going to be a fascinating, fascinating hour. I encourage you to be here at 7 p.m. for The Secret Life of Jeffrey Epstein. That is today's FiveStack. We shall see you again tomorrow. Have a great one, Dean, and have a good one, everybody. Good one. Bye, everybody.